Hi, welcome back to AgileTD After Work. So today is very special. We have Bryan Jones with us, and he wants to talk with us about quality and what is quality. So, welcome, Bryan. How are you?
Thanks. I'm really good actually. On top form.
Yeah, that's very nice. So, who are you? So that the people knows who I am, who you are.
I'm a QE consultant. I'm an architect that works for a company called 2i in the UK, who are a consultancy specialising in quality and testing. I've been involved in quality and testing for my entire career since I left university. Um, I have done just about every job you can possibly imagine in testing, including machine code reviews, all the way through to running my own testing practice for one of the top five digital transformation companies in Europe.
So when you did the code review, so I guess that was at the beginning of your career.
Very
So
much, yes.
you got this mass and papers, so to read all of them.
Yes, it was on an old green screen machine. It was a long time ago.
Okay, so you learn code, I guess.
Yep, I can code. I can do bits of SQL. I can do most things. Just it's not what I do. I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. I specialize in quality.
Okay, so thanks so much for being there. So we're expecting to see and to hear your talk. So welcome to the LTD After Work, and enjoy the audience. Okay, so I will put you on the front with your
Thank you.
presentation, and I go out. Okay, so enjoy.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Okay. So, 36 years ago, as a fresh-faced graduate of an IT degree that didn't even use the words testing or quality, I was a newbie on a large integration team for an avionics systems company. It's where I was doing the machine code reviews. Being a motorcycle obsessive and a voracious reader, I stole this book from my sister and proceeded to read it over the space of a weekend, pausing only to refresh my mug of tea and to turn over the Lynyrd Skynyrd records that I was listening to at the time. This book blew my mind. It talks about value and quality and paying attention to details and paying attention to the way you think and so much more. Sure, it had motorcycle stories, but that's not what got me. At the time, I was working in avionics, a safety critical arena, and yet never once did we use the word quality. Delivering value was not in our vocabulary either. We only talked about testing, verifying requirements, detecting defects, nothing about quality at all. We had some really top-notch processes in our ultra-formal V-model approach. For anybody that doesn't know what a V-model is, it's basically waterfall, but done properly. But we also had 10,000 defects and over 2,500 TBCs in the requirements. That's over 2,500 requirements that didn't have any agreed information in them. I was struggling to reconcile this mismatch between safety critical systems where we should care about quality and the reality where it wasn't even the conversation. That started my 36-year journey into testing and the nature of quality. Mankind has wrestled with the idea of quality for over 1,000 years. It's been the subject of many a vigorous debate over the millennia. The ancient Greeks even came to blows over it. It seems that no one can definitively agree on what quality actually is. And yet we in the IT industry talk about quality all the time. Delivering quality, engineering quality, assuring quality, managing quality, even measuring quality. How can we measure something which we can't even agree on a definition of for this vague, nebulous, indefinable, most human of concepts. When you read a good book, you know it's a good book. You know it possesses quality. Believe it or not, there are actually metrics for measuring the quality of writing. But some of the most popular books and greatest pieces of literature score very badly on those metrics. And yet they are still good books. They still possess high quality. The reverse is also true. There have been many cases of the rules being rigorously applied and the outcome having very poor quality. The same goes for painting, sculpture, drama, comedy, and music. The slavish application of the formula will produce something that might do the job, but it won't produce a masterpiece. It won't contain quality. Several years later, I was a test lead on a commercial project in the retail sector, and I questioned the quality of a delivery. The project manager very confidently said, quality is just delivering to time, to budget, and to requirements. That didn't sit very well with me at the time. I don't know about you, but I've seen plenty of projects that exactly fulfilled their requirements, but when you used them, they were rubbish. This project management dogma at the time, and an awful lot of people believed it. So what was going on there? What was this project manager missing? Why was he thinking that way? Well, let's go back to those ancient Greeks and explore the foundations of quality a little more. Aristotle, once known as the philosopher, due to his significant influence on the way the modern world organizes, was most famous for categorizing everything. He believed everything could be organized by a system of categories that broke down into subcategories, and so on and so forth. Between him and his previous master, Socrates, they fueled our Western obsession with trying to make order out of chaos and explain everything. It is vital, as it is what has enabled us through science and engineering to create IT systems, and for that matter, to create most of the modern world. What we have here is 4 causes, and they are a valuable way of approaching any system. They are based on an objective view of the world, facts, figures, and measurable things. He was obsessed with listing and counting, enumerating everything, which is where the project manager's thinking was coming from. He did, however, have a view which gives us a valuable pointer to an understanding of quality in IT. And that's that line at the bottom. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. But his philosophy is missing something that his rivals, the Greek sophists, valued, and that can add to our view of quality. Socrates and Aristotle valued classical quality based on an objective view of the world, whereas their rivals, the sophists, had a more subjective view of the world, where quality is based on the subjective experience. Later, this became known as romantic quality. So the objective or classical view in testing is facts, figures, and stuff that's easy to measure, like the project manager's view. The subjective or romantic view is stuff that's harder to measure, harder to pin down. It's that moment when the user goes, I don't care if it works, it's horrible to use and I hate it. Or alternatively, it might have some wrinkles, but it's nice to use, so I like it. Some people might argue that accessibility has a standard, the WCAG, the WCAG standard, so we can measure it. But different people have different needs. What's good for one person might not work for another. It is subjective. It's also worth noting that most modern standards, whether deliberately or not, mix classical and romantic factors. But that's a conversation for another day. Likewise, usability. We measure it by how people use the system, how they experience the system. So by definition, it's subjective. I've also included risk in subjective because although it tends to have numbers allocated to it, it is related to risk appetite, which is subjective. And more often, risk itself is a subjective view. So that brings us back to Mr. Persig and Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Believe it or not, this book was actually required reading for MBA students in the 70s. And he postulated that quality was neither objective nor subjective, but both. That quality was present in the event at which the subject becomes aware of the object. This sounds rather like philosophical waffle, but what it actually means is that you have to have a balance of classical and romantic qualities to have true quality. He also said that the way you imbue an object or an action with quality is to care about it. W. Edwards Deming was a pioneering statistician and management consultant who fundamentally transformed how organizations approach quality and continuous improvement. His work became the foundation of the quality revolution that helped rebuild Japan's post-war economy and later influenced manufacturing and service industries worldwide. You may have heard of the Toyota quality method or of Lean Six Sigma. They all came out of Deming's work. Deming's approach centered on statistical process control and systems thinking, which would make him very classically biased. Well, let's see. Deming's most comprehensive framework was his 14 points for management. But of those 14, these 4 are of particular interest to us, although they're all worth reading, especially if you're an advocate of agile approaches. So firstly, adopt the new philosophy of quality. The new philosophy required organizations to embrace quality as a core value and a competitive necessity, not just a desirable outcome. Deming advocated for the continuous improvement towards zero defects through better processes. Management needed to understand that quality must be built into products and services from the beginning, not added as an afterthought. Sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds like shift left. Sounds like quality engineering. Deming also argued that inspection, otherwise known as reviews, was an expensive and ineffective way to ensure quality because it occurred after problems had already been built into products. So what he's talking about there is inspection is essentially testing. That's what we do when we test. We inspect. His famous principle was you cannot inspect quality into a product, which has been repeated recently as you cannot test quality into a product. Inspection could only identify defects that had already occurred, often too late to prevent customer dissatisfaction or waste. Now remember, this was in a manufacturing environment. So if you've already got a defect in something, the chances are you've got to throw it away. But in IT, that means rework, it means bug fixes, it means extra cost, extra expense, extra time. So it meant building quality into each step of the production rather than trying to catch errors at the end. When inspection was necessary, it should be used as a source of information for process improvement, not as a substitute for good processes. Again, this sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Sounds very modern. Considering when he wrote this, that's interesting. And then the third one, to break down barriers between departments. Well, we now call that silos, don't we? He believed that the most quality problems occurred at the interfaces between teams. Deming advocated for cross-functional teams and collaborative problem-solving approaches. His quote, "Quality is everyone's responsibility, but it must be led by management," is linked to this, and it's one that's been repeated quite a lot recently in different formats, usually dropping off the second half. It was a whole team exercise intended to deliver value. Wow, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Then the last one. Deming strongly opposed numerical quotas and management by objectives. He argued that they focused attention on quantity, at the expense of quality. So counting numbers instead of understanding how good it was. And that destroyed intrinsic motivation. He believed that quotas encouraged workers to meet numbers regardless of the methods used, often leading to shortcuts that compromised quality. I'm sure we've seen people use testing metrics in a similar way. So although data was at the core of Deming's statistical process control, he also knew that there was something more than just the numbers, although I doubt he would have called it romantic quality. So we can now start to pull together all these strands of thought towards an understanding of quality. Firstly, Socrates and Aristotle's quality, the objective quality, all that stuff that managers love, facts, figures, metrics, performed in predictable test phases using formulaic test techniques. All the stuff you tend to learn on an ISTQB foundation course, for instance. The solid practice and process stuff. All useful and necessary. Then we come to Aristotle and the consistent implementation of all those good practices and processes, which is embodied in his quote, "Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." He wants us to not just look at the code, he wants us to consider the infrastructure, the data, the architecture, the design, the patterns, the specifications, the methodologies, the tools, the teams, and finally, and most interestingly, the user needs and the business value. Aristotle really liked lists. Another lens of his four causes is that we should consider what are generally referred to as the non-functional aspects of the system. So all the different ways of looking at a system through his four causes. And then Deming on constantly focusing on the purpose, and that purpose being to deliver value. Also to use data as a means to drive efficiencies, but not to let it become an end in and of itself. Don't let the data gathering drive counterproductive behaviors that damage quality. Lastly, and arguably most importantly, subjective quality. What do the stakeholders care about? What do they value? What if we deliver what is good in our eyes, but it doesn't align with our customers' value systems? Well, then it's not good in their eyes, and we've failed. By understanding what our customers value, we can align our understanding of good with that, and then test for it during the design, development, and delivery. Not only that, but we can target our reporting so that the stakeholders only get the information they need, want, and can understand. It also means we can frame our messages such they will be understood and felt by the stakeholders. And if they're felt, they will be acted upon. Another factor of subjective quality is that if we care about what and how we deliver that aligned value to our customers and stakeholders, it will be more likely to display quality and be perceived as having quality. And there's the key. It's subjective because the subject is the one that perceives the quality. Now this is the boring bit because I doubt that most of this will be news to anyone. But the key is ensuring that both objective and subjective factors are considered across the whole piece. This is all stuff that we've been talking about for years, and in some cases decades. But we need to do it consistently and constantly, regardless of whether we are delivering hardware, software, services, motor cars, or ice cream. And AI doesn't change any of that. Systems that include AI have to be valuable to their customer. And as such, all of this applies to them just as much as to any other product. You need to consider all those good practices, quality processes, continuous improvement loops. A lot of the presentations at Agile Testing Days in November, including mine, address how to test AI systems. And believe it or not, a lot of it doesn't change that much in principle. It still uses a lot of the background that we all have in quality and testing. AI systems, excuse me, AI systems have actually been around for a very long time. I studied them on my degree way back 38 years ago. So there are plenty of tools, techniques, approaches that are designed to deal with those. It's just that it wasn't called AI necessarily. Some of them were called expert systems. And machine learning has been around for a very long time, as neural networks have. So as far as testing it goes, there are still the tools, the techniques, and the approaches. And some of those that we use for more conventional deterministic software apply just as much. And the principles of testing early, testing often, and checking that we have built quality in applies just as much. This quote is from Jerry Weinberg, to which a lot of people strongly relate. And that makes a lot of sense, but I'd like to tweak it slightly. My version melds Jerry Weinberg's with Robert Pirsig's. So if the customer or stakeholder we're delivering to doesn't value what we deliver, then it has low value and has low quality from their perspective. And it doesn't matter how good we think it is, if it doesn't align with the customer's values, it isn't good. The journey towards quality is never complete. It's an ongoing practice that requires both philosophical understanding and practical application. As we build the digital systems that shape our world, we carry the responsibility of bringing quality thinking to bear on every line of code or every line of prompt, every architectural decision, and every user interaction. Quality isn't just about delivering technically better systems. It's about creating better value for users, better experiences for teams, and ultimately a better world through technology, however corny that might sound. I just want to leave you with a couple of quotes that I hope now make more sense. One is from a giant of software engineering, Tom DeMarco. Product quality has almost nothing to do with defects or their lack. And the other, from the 19th century polymath John Ruskin. Quality is never an accident. It's always the result of intelligent effort. And we need to put that effort in. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. I'm Bryan Jones. As I said, I'm a QE architect for 2i consultancy in the UK. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk quality and testing and all the aspects of it. I also host a podcast called Quality Blether for the Scottish Testing Group. A couple that may be of interest if you found this particular talk interesting. I interviewed David Crow, who's doing a PhD on organizational agility. And he talks about the history of Agile and of philosophy, and mentions Deming as well in passing. And the other one was an interview with Mark Stringer, who recently wrote a book called Delivering the Impossible. Now, Mark is a philosopher, a comedian, a project manager, and a scrum master, as well as an author. And he's actually delivered his book as a stand-up routine at both the Brighton Festival and at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So a very brave man doing stand-up in front of those crowds. So you should be able to find Quality Blether on any of your usual podcast sources. If not, then reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll send you a link. As I say, I'm always happy to chat about quality testing, motorbikes, music, and most things. So, thank you.
Thanks so much, Bryan. Really amazing. Very nice talk. I'm looking forward to see you at the Agile Test Days in November. maybe we have time to drink a beer together or a coffee.
That would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit. Thanks so much for being there. It was amazing, like I said, and yeah, take care, and I hope to see you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.